singing regularly because it was for many reasons, but it was a glorification of the several lines are glorifications of the six Goswamis, and so it was one of Srila Prabhupada's ways of introducing us to both Narottam Das Thakur and who he was as a Vaishnava Acharya. And so in our disciplic line, Lord Chaitanya and Rupa and Sanatan and Jiva Goswami, and then three students, principal students of Jiva Goswami next in line, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasa Acharya, and Shamananda. But Narottam Das Thakur was gifted in many ways, and one of the ways he was gifted was he wrote songs and sang the songs that he wrote, and very prolific writer. And one of the songs that we're going to be singing now that he wrote is Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan. Just names of the personality of Godhead. Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan. They rhyme. And then other associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then in the list is Advaitacharya's name. Advaitacharya and his wife Sita. So today we're going to sing, and there wasn't time to put together a visual presentation, so we're just going to sing from your PDF file that you have a copy of. And I sprung this request on Shatarupa because, for many reasons, getting here was a little difficult. So my day has been very short. So therefore this method, just a PDF file, and you can sing along. She'll sing and you respond. Open up the page, please.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadhavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadhavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadhavaya Namaha.
Yadhavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govindaram Shri Madhusudan.
Hari Giridhari Gopinath Madhana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita.
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita.
Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita.
Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita.
Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha.
Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha.
Echai Goshai Kori Charana Bandhan.
Nitai Gosai Tarai Kamadas.
Jaha hoite Vignanas Abhishta Puran. Echai Goshai
Echai Gosai
तासबारा पादरेणु मोरा पंचग्रास हे चाय गोसाई जाय मुई तारा दास
Echai Gosai
तासबारा पादरेणु मोरा पंचग्रास तादेरा चरण सेवी भक्त सनिभास जनमे जनमे होए अभिलाष
Janame ho janamo ye abhilas
ए चाय गोसाई जबे ब्रजे कोइलो बास
Echai Gosai
राधा कृष्ण नित्य लीला कोरिलो प्रकाश
Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korhila Prakash
आनंदे बोलो हरि भज वृंदावन
Anande Hari Bhaja Vrindavan
आनंदे बोलो हरि भज वृंदावन
Anande Balo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan
श्री गुरु वैष्णव पदे मजैया मा
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade
श्री गुरु वैष्णव पद पद्मा कोरिया
Shri Guru Vaishnava Padma Vilas
श्री गुरु वैष्णव पद पद्मा कोरिया
Shri Guru Vaishnava Padma Vilas
नारोत्तम दासा को हे नाम संकीर्ता
Hari Nama Dasa Kahe
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव
Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev The title of the song is Harinama Sankirtan, certainly glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his Sankirtan movement or Sankirtan mission. And directly within the song, the reason for choosing the song specifically for today is because Advaita Acharya's Sita is mentioned. The position of Sita in the pastime is the same as Rama Devi, the consort of the Lord Vishnu in the spiritual realm. And when the personality of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chooses it's time for his appearance in this world, all of his associates come, Advaita Acharya comes, and Sita a manifestation of Rama Devi, she also comes. And there's many nice things to say about Advaitacharya and his wife Sita and their children, many children, and particularly Achyutananda, because he was such an eminent Vaishnava. So the theme of this visit is Srimati Radharani's appearance day, or pastimes of Radha. So this evening class is the first of a series, and it's number 1 on the list here. We're going to hear something about the tattva of Radha and some of the pastimes of Radha's appearance. A very celebrated verse is this verse that you're probably very familiar with. This is from Adi Leela, chapter 1, verse number 5. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shaktir Asmat Ekat Manava Pi Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Gatau Tau Chaityam Yakyam Prakritam Aduna Tadvayam Chaikyam Aptum Radha Bhava Duti Subalitam Naumi Krishna Starupam. It's a nice verse composed by Krishnadas Kaviraj, the author of the Bhagavata, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the loving pastimes, Pranaya Vikritir, the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna, are transcendental manifestations of Hladini Shakti, the internal pleasure potency of Krishna. That's the first line. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Hladini Shaktir Asmat. So the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna, they're transcendental manifestations of the Hladini Shakti. Then, Eka Atma. Although Radha and Krishna are Eka, or one, in their identity, previously they separated themselves, so they manifested Deha, Bedha, 2 forms. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves. Now these 2 transcendental identities, who are actually one, that is Shakti and Shaktiman, are inseparable and one. They eternally have been manifest as 2, Radha and Krishna. Then Chaitang Akyam Prakritim Adhuna Tadvayam. Now these 2 transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So 2 became 1, or the 2 that looked like 2 but they're actually 1 became again 1. Radha Krishna manifest in 2 forms have now manifested in 1 form. And what's that 1 form? Manifested with the sentiment, the Radha Bhava, with the Bhava of Radha, and the complexion, the duty, the luster of Radha, golden in complexion, and of the mood of Radha, but Krishna himself in the mood of Radha. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So that's from Adi Leela. It's one of the key introductory verses that the rest of the Chaitanya Charitamrita expands. And the expansion message comes in chapter 4. So here you see this very similar phrase, Radha Krishna Eka Atma Dvi Deha Dhari. Although they're one entity, they're manifesting in two forms. Radha and Krishna are one and the same, but they've assumed two bodies. Thus they enjoy each other, tasting the mellow of love. So there's a sequence. This is Adi Lila, chapter 4, verse 56. Similarly, from the purport, the two transcendentalists, Radha and Krishna, are a puzzle to the materialists. The description of Radha and Krishna from the diary of Srila Sarup Damodar Goswami is a condensed explanation, but one needs great spiritual insight to understand the mystery of these two personalities. Now, this is referencing Chaitanya Charitamrita, but there's a key to understanding Radha through Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mentioned specifically is Sarup Damodar. As we know, each of the personalities in Lord Chaitanya's Leela have their spiritual counterpart in Krishna Leela. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Radha and Krishna combined, Radha's dear companion and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dear companion are the same person. That is, Lalita was Radharani's dearmost companion, and Sarup Damodar was the companion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he kept a kadacha or diary because he experienced, he understood, and he explained the inner meaning of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, including, the stages of madness and ecstasy of love of Godhead that he expressed and experienced and didn't publicly exhibit, but Sarup Damodar was privileged to experience them and understand them and write about them, and that kadacha, that diary, became a very significant basis of Chaitanya Charitamrita. In other words, how did a person at least one and a half generations later know all these things about Mahaprabhu? Was from someone who was with him, Sarup Damodar in particular. There's a nice painting that illustrates the verse. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radha, but in the identity of Krishna himself, so that the two entities became again one entity for the purpose of his pastimes. Without explaining the whole of Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was a purpose for all of this. Here's a little chart. Some of you like charts. This is Krishna's Swarup Shakti. Swarup Shakti. His own Swarupa, his own potency. So his internal potency, or Swarup Shakti. The external potency, Maya, or the three modes of material nature, or Prakriti. And then there's the living entity, Jiva Shakti. Bahiranga Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, and Antaranga Shakti. So the Antaranga Shakti is a technical term. It's synonymous with his internal potency, or his Swarup Shakti, or his Chit Shakti. When you see those terms, they mean the same thing. That's why they're in the same box. But those are his potencies, internal, external, and marginal. Very simple. And the internal has divisions. Sandini, Samvit, and Ladini. You see the very faint red line drawn between them. The Sandini, Samvit, and Radha is in the Hladini Shakti category, the pleasure potency. Krishna's aspect of transcendental bliss, the Ananda portion, the pleasure-giving portion of Krishna's energy. And Samvit, Vit, has the dhatu of knowing. So Krishna's aspect of cognition, his knowledge potency. And Krishna exhibits the knowledge potency, for example, by presenting the Vedas or his conversation with Arjuna and so forth. That's the Samvit potency in action. And Sandini potency is the existential potency, the Sat. So same, Sat Chitananda, the Sat feature. And it manifests, it explains the relationship between all things, whether it's water or his abode or the sky or the sun or the Vibhuti Yoga chapter. Those Vibhutis are Krishna's manifestations of Krishna's existential potency. And they're non-different from him. That's a very quick gloss of Krishna's unlimited potencies, but our focus is on the one in the lower right box. That's the Hladini Shakti. So going back to chapter 4, the essence of the Hladini potency is love of God. The essence of love of God is emotion, bhava. And the ultimate development of emotion is maha bhava. And that maha bhava has one participant or one personality who experiences it and manifests it, and that's Radharani. We'll say it the other way. We don't have access to Mahabhava. Radharani has access to Mahabhava. She manifests it, she is it. But one can have association with Radharani through the medium of devotional service that she extends to living entities, and one can have some appreciation for her Mahabhava. That's what Chaitanya Charitamrita does. So here's a verse about Mahabhava. Mahabhava Sarup Sri Radha Thakurani. Sarva Guna Kani Krishna Kanti Shiromani. Sri Radha Thakurani is the embodiment of Mahabhava. She is the repository of all good qualities and the crest jewel among the lovely consorts of Krishna. Again, just a continuation of the same. Adi Leela, chapter 4. If you want to see the screen, how about this? Those of you that are in the hallway, could you kindly move in? We'll do it again. Those of you that are in the hallway, please move in. One more time. Those of you that are in you got to look at the screen. That's why you're moving in, so the people back there can see the screen. You got the eyes in the side of your head. Okay, no problem. Okay. So this is a focus on Radharani's appearance, and then this is the tattva part of Radharani, Radha Tattva. She's the crest jewel amongst all the lovely consorts of Krishna. Then another verse from the same Adi Leela chapter 4. Krishna prema bhavita yanra chitendriya kaya. Her mind, senses, and body are steeped in love for Krishna. She is Krishna's own energy, the Hladini Shakti, and she helps him in his pastimes in so many, 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 many ways. And continuing the same Adi Leela chapter 4, Srimati Radhika is the transformation of Krishna's love. She is his internal energy called the Ladini. There's Prabhupada dancing in ecstasy. That Ladini energy gives Krishna pleasure and nourishes his devotees. So we're connected with Radharani through the medium of serving and calling the name of Radha Krishna. The beloved consorts of Lord Krishna are of three kinds. Goddesses of fortune, queens, and the milkmaids of Vraja, who are the foremost of all. These consorts, that's all three categories, all proceed from Radhika. So that is, she, Radharani, is the fountainhead from whom these different personalities in female form manifest from, or from whom they manifest. And they're giving pleasure to Krishna, this situation, that situation, and the other situation, the goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, etc., etc., etc. They're all Radharani's manifestations. As the different forms of Krishna in Dwarka, who married the queens, or Krishna in Vaikuntha, who is Narayana, and he has his goddesses of fortune consorts, or Krishna in Vrindavan. It's the same entity manifest in different bhavas. Just as the fountainhead, Lord Krishna, is the cause of all incarnations, so Sri Radha is the cause of all these consorts. Same verse, same explanation. So it's when we're hearing Krishna in Dwarka, we're hearing Lord in Vaikuntha, it's good to remember, especially in connection to Radharani's appearance day, that she's the source of them all. Govinda Nandini Radha, Govinda Mohini. Radha is the one who gives pleasure to Govinda. She is also the enchantress of Govinda. She is the be-all and end-all of Govinda and the crest jewel of all his consorts. So that's Adi Leela chapter 4, little, because there's long purports and there's a lot to understand, but that's a little summary of Radha Tattva. And in relation to the appearance day of Srimati Radharani, you might be surprised, you might not be surprised. There are different iterations, and the reason is there are different days of Brahma. And different days of Brahma, Radha may appear this way, another day of Brahma, Radha may appear that way, and another day of Brahma, she may appear another way. And it's quite okay, so don't get confused. Different days of Brahma, Kalpa Beta, that's the explanation. So here's one, and it's found, the explanation is found in Ramananda Roy's writing. We mentioned already at the very beginning, Srupa Damodar kept a diary, and he was constantly by the side, as was Ramananda Roy. Constantly means there were times of the day, particularly in the late night hours, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't sleep. He was going further and further and more deeply into his experience of Radha Bhava. And Srupa Damodar was expert in quoting verses, but also singing those verses. So he recited in a singing manner in different melodies, because each Sanskrit verse generally has several melodies. Some of you may know this. One of the 6 Goswamis was named Raghunath Bhatta. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. And his fame, what he's famous for, is He just recited Srimad Bhagavatam, but he recited each verse in at least 5 different melodies or meters. And there's different names for those different meters, and he was immersed and very skilled. And he would sing, it's described, he would sing so sweetly that the cuckoo birds would sit on branches nearby where he was reciting, and they would just listen. Because many people, it's the other way around. They like to hear the cuckoo birds sing. But the cuckoo birds like to hear his singing. He sang so sweetly. So, as he was gifted in that way, particularly verses from the Bhagavatam, Swarup Damodar was also very skilled and would recite verses to augment and amplify a particular bhava or emotion that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was experiencing in his relationship with Krishna, in the mood of Radha. So he'd recite verses. He's very, very expert. And he kept a diary of what those experiences were, and as did Ramananda Roy. So this is a description from Ramananda Roy Padyavali. Padyavali means a collection of prayers. Padyavali. Rupa Goswami wrote, and Ramananda Roy wrote a Padyavali. So here's what he writes, and it's sung, but here's some painting that illustrates what's in his Padyavali. One day, as Maharaj Vrishabhanu arrived at the Jamuna's banks, after having been moving around here and there during a royal expedition, he saw a lotus flower, resplendent like the rays of the sun, floating down the river Jamuna. So there's a painting of the same. And he noticed, seeing the lotus, his mind became full of bliss, and yet he simultaneously fell into deep despair. He thought and spoke, how can this divine lotus be brought to the shore? And as he got closer to the lotus, he noticed it wasn't just a lotus. Although his servants heard what the king uttered, no one could speak. Ramananda Roy aspires to serve his feet. In his inner vision, Ramananda Roy asks the king, shall I fetch this lotus? So the contemporary with Ramananda Roy was that Ramananda Roy was governor, and the governor is under the king. And the king that he was the governor in the province of was Prataparudra. He had a vast kingdom, and so he had a relationship with the king as the governor of Madras. And then when he moved to Puri, he had more direct association with the king, or Prataparudra. So he's writing this in his book, and of course, there's the Sanskrit. In great bliss, Maharaj Vrishabhanu swiftly dismounted his steed, jumped into the Jamuna, swimming amidst waves that seemed to touch the sky. He caught hold of the lotus and brought it to the shore. Much to his surprise, within the lotus is a young baby girl. Roy Ramananda speaks of Radha's appearance and how the world is now crowned with success by beholding the vision of Radhika. What can possibly compare to the beauty of celebration of the appearance of Srimati Radharani Vrishabhanu's abode? So that's from his writing, and there's a very similar account, without all the same detail, in Vrishabhanu Kund. Vrishabhanu Kund is a place where Radharani's father, King Vrishabhanu, daily would take his bath. And their ancestral home was Varsana, and maybe you have been there. Varsana is up on a hill, and on top of the hill there's the Varsana, his residence. And he would come down the hill every morning to a place where there was a kund. And he found this lotus flower floating in the kund one day, and that there's a similar account of what he personally brought the lotus flower to the shore and found Radharani on top of the lotus flower. There's a similar but a different explanation, particularly found in our yatras. In our yatra, the place of Radharani's appearance is pictured here. It's very simple in its appearance, not big palace. There you see the bus from our yatra visitors on the right side. And inside, if you go inside in the temple, they haven't made it updated and beautiful and spiffy. It's quite simple. Here's the deity of Radha and Krishna. That at night they put the deity to rest. So this is where they're resting, Radha and Krishna. And inside there also is a little murti of Radharani crawling, because when she was little, this is the place where she stayed. So it's in Gokula, not far from the place where Krishna appeared in Gokula, but on the eastern side of the river Jamuna. And this is a photograph, some years ago, I don't know what it looks like today, but there's a walkway that's a little raised, and just below the walkway is the riverbed. Now there was a time when the river, the Yamuna, one of the tributaries of the Yamuna, flowed, robustly, and now it's just a trickle left. Here's the vestiges of where that. You can see on the far side, there's a stanchion that's jutted into where the river flowed, and now it's just kind of like a trench, and then a little road that passes through it, and cows and a calf in this place. And a similar description. This is when we go to Vrindavan. One of the places we'll certainly go to is the appearance place of Radharani, and we'll hear this narration that one morning Vrishabhanu went to take his bath in the Jamuna at this place, and he saw this lotus flower, and on the lotus flower it was effulgent, because it was in the early morning before the sun came up, but still the lotus flower was effulgent, and he rescued the lotus flower and brought the lotus flower to his home. As the history goes, both Nanda and Vrishabhanu and their wives were without any children. Vrishabhanu in particular wanted a daughter. Nanda Maharaj in particular wanted a son. So they both decided to leave their ancestral home, which is on the western side of the Jamuna, and go to the eastern side, and maybe they'll have more good fortune. So they shifted. And sure enough, so this is how Radharani appeared on a lotus flower. And so he brought the child into the house and showed his wife, look what I found. And let us accept that this is sent by the Lord for us to have as our own female child. So they both agreed, and that's how Radharani appeared on a lotus flower. And there was a problem. And the problem was, at least they thought it was a problem, it appeared to them that the little girl was blind, deaf, and dumb. Most children, at some point in time, they'll cry. They'll make some sound. She didn't cry. And she didn't open her eyes. And she didn't apparently respond to any sound. So they thought, uh-oh, we got a problem. And when Krishna appeared, just before Radharani appeared, as we know, Krishna Janmashtami is just some number of days before Radharani's appearance, Narada Muni came to know. So Narada Muni wanted to see this newborn Krishna in his pastime in Vrindavan. Of course, it was on the eastern side now, where Krishna appeared. And so he paid a visit to Nanda and Yashoda, and he had darshan of little Krishna. There's a nice little painting. There's Krishna in his little baby crib. And then another nice painting of Nanda and Yashoda and Krishna. And, demigods and persons coming to bring gifts to the newborn child and so forth. So Narada reasoned that if Krishna just appeared, Radharani must have also appeared. So we went searching to find Srimati Radharani. And, that as a sannyasi, certainly a celebrated sannyasi, he was easily given access, and he wanted to see any newborn female children. So he would give his blessings. So yes, come. And he couldn't find Radha. And he became disappointed. So finally, he got to the home of Vrishabhanu and Kirtida. And he asked them, any newborn children? No. They didn't say yes because they were embarrassed because the child is blind, deaf, and dumb. We have a son. We'd like to introduce you to our son because Radharani has an older brother. Did you know that? Radharani has an older brother. The older brother's name? Sridham. So, no blessings, yes, but no female child, okay. So then he was ready to leave, and they stopped him and said, wait a minute, because you're a sadhu, maybe you can make our daughter well. We have a newly born child, but she's blind, deaf, and dumb. Maybe you can do some mantras or some procedure. But yes, I have some mantras, but you have to allow me to be alone with your daughter. So he closed the door, and immediately he understood, this is Radharani, because just being in the same room. And so he literally worshipped her, paraphernalia and everything. And he worshipped Radharani. But she didn't open her eyes, and she didn't make any sound. So he said, I suggest, he said, she hasn't become well yet, but I suggest you hold a big festival in the honor of the appearance of Radharani. And so, and invite all the neighbors and bring many, many gifts, and make sure you bring Nanda and Yashoda, knowing that they'll bring Krishna, and knowing why Radharani was not opening her eyes or saying anything. And when everybody's gathered for this big festival, all the attention went to the newborn girl, or to the parents, and Krishna toddled his way into the side of Radharani's crib. And when he reached over the crib and saw Radharani, and Radharani saw him, she opened her eyes. She cried very loudly because she was just wanting to see only Krishna. That was the narration that you'll hear when you go to Vrindavan. And they spent some time together, and immediately everyone was happy. But she was blind, deaf, and dumb because she didn't want to see, hear, or make any sound other than in relation to Krishna. So that's the standard explanation that you'll hear when we go to Vrindavan, probably not all the other ones. There's a fourth narration from another scriptural source that describes very similar to how Sita was found by King Janak. That was when Vrishabhanu was preparing a field for a yagya, etc., 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 plowing the field. In the earth, he found Sita. Radharani. This is from the Matsya Purana description. And then there's a really fascinating one, number 5. This is from Rupa Goswami's writings. In Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, Rupa Goswami describes Agastya that was on tour in India, and he went to various holy places, and one of the holy places he went to was the Vindhya Hills. And he detected some pride. Vindhya was very proud because the Vindhya Hills at that time were very tall. So he, Agastya, requested Vindhya bow down. And in bowing down, he said, "Very good, you stay like this until I return." He didn't say when he would return, because he wanted to curb Vindhya's pride. Now, Vindhya was proud, and he was envious of the Himalayas because the Himalayas had given birth to Parvati. So he, Vindhya, desired a daughter whose husband could defeat Shiva in battle. I want a daughter better than Parvati, one whose husband can defeat Shiva in battle. So that was Vindhya's wish. After long austerities performed by Vindhya, then Lord Brahma awarded the following benediction. By Lord Hari's Yogamaya potency, then Radharani and Chandravali both appeared from the wombs of the Vindhya's wife. This is Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava. So Radha and Chandravali became daughters of Vindhya Hills at the request of Vindhya to Lord Brahma, that he could have a daughter whose husband could defeat Lord Shiva in battle. And then later, Putana, when she was on tour looking for the 8th son of Devaki, she went to the Vindhya Hills. When she went to the Vindhya Hills, she kidnapped Radharani. She was not a nice lady. She kidnapped Radharani, and along with Radharani, of course, was Chandravali. So when, according to Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava, when Krishna killed Putana, then Purnamasi removed Radha from the lap of Putana. And not only Radha, but 5 other girls. Of course, Chandravali was included. Then he names the names of the other 5 girls. Purnamasi, swiftly and in a secret place I happily gave virtuous Radha to Yashoda's nurse Mukara, and said to Mukara, "O elderly one, here is your son-in-law, Vrishabhanu's daughter." Pretty fascinating. There's more to the story, the way that Rupa Goswami weaves the story is quite fascinating. But it's his description of how Radharani appeared, because that's the topic. No, it goes further and further and further and further and further. Rupa Goswami's narration, and how do we understand how do we understand this narration of Rupa Goswami? It sounds, if one doesn't have faith in Rupa Goswami as we do, one may think it's fiction. He's just narrating a fiction story. But Rupa Goswami doesn't narrate fiction stories. So what is it if it's not a fiction story? It's one of the days of Brahma in which Radharani appears as the daughter of the Vindhya Hills and becomes transferred to Vrindavan from the Vindhya Hills by Putana. And when Putana was killed by Krishna, she was still in the grasp, she, Radha, and 5 other girls were in the grasp of Putana, the kidnapper of little babies. Now, Putana's business was she would kill little babies, but at least in this case, she didn't kill the little babies. She was just carrying them. This is Rupa Goswami's explanation. And then when Krishna killed Putana, there's 5 girls, 6 girls. And Purnamasi rescued them. He doesn't say, there was such a turmoil when Putana's body sprawled out, giant form, and everyone was aghast to see her ugly features, and they were primarily concerned with Krishna. They didn't know Radharani. They knew Krishna because Krishna was already born, and they were searching for. Putana was searching for them, for Krishna. So their attention was not on the female girls, but at least Rupa Goswami's description is Purnamasi, you all know. Purnamasi is Yogamaya personified in the form of, in Vrindavan, the personified form of Yogamaya. She organizes or arranges pastimes for Krishna, or of Krishna. And Radharani is a very important personality in Krishna's pastime. So she, this is Radharani, she gave Radharani to Mukara. Let's go back. Yashoda's nurse and your son-in-law Vrishabhanu's daughter. So they're related. Kirtida and Yashoda are related. Without all the details of how they're related. And this child is not your child, it's her child. Vrishabhanu's daughter. So that's Rupa Goswami's explanation. There's further and further and further details of how interesting the whole situation becomes. And that's it for this. There's 2 topics, and my experience is there's questions. In fact, a group like this, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. So the classes are purposely a little bit on the shorter side, so that we'll have time for discussion. Tomorrow, the next session is going to be, now that she's made her appearance in one of these 5 different ways, what are her pastimes? We have another microphone? Is that what you're signaling? Here we go. You got some service. You like service? Sometimes? Okay. Okay. Any discussion?
Who were those 5 other girls that Putana was carrying?
I don't recall the names, but before tomorrow's class and at the beginning of tomorrow's class, I can see if I can find the name. Pretty sure Rupa Goswami gave the names. Chandravali is one of the names.
And Maharaj, Putana represents a false guru? Is that what she represents? What does she represent, Maharaj?
Deception.
Deception.
She represents a false guru, the one as if because when she came, Putana came, she came as a disguise. She had shape-changing abilities, and she appeared as like the goddess of fortune, very opulently dressed, very beautiful, etc., etc., etc. So much so that nobody objected her going right into the inner chamber where the child was. So deception, a false guru, who as if the real thing, but they're not at all the real thing. Okay?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Just a quick question. Like how, when Putana was killed, the 5 girls have been separated from her, and Radharani was ended up in the lotus, and Chandravali, like how
No. This is a completely separate Daya Brahma, completely separate appearance. Don't mix them.
Okay, Maharaj.
She just was in the hands as a daughter of Vindhya Hills, in the hands of Putana, who's a child killer, and she was carrying the little girls. Don't mix the two.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, beautiful class. I wanted one clarification from you, Maharaj. You gave several explanations.
Yes.
The last explanation, the 5th slide, where Pauramasi gave Radharani to Yashoda's nurse. Can you please go back to that slide, Maharaj? Yeah. I'm confused on the last statement. O elderly one, here is your son-in-law, Rishabhanu's daughter. How do I read that, Maharaj?
So Mukhara is a nurse. She's Yashoda's nurse. And, it's just Mother Yashoda. That's her sister from So Purnamasi gives the child to Mukhara, not saying this is Yashoda's child. Rather, this is your son-in-law's, Rishabhanu's daughter. This is Rishabhanu's daughter. So that there's a relation between Mukhara and Vrishabhanu. And Vrishabhanu is her son-in-law. Now, I can't recall. I'm really bad with, the in-laws descriptions. But you want to know what the detail is, I'll have to look it up.
Thank you.
But Vrishabhanu is related to Mukhara.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
So now I have 2 homework assignments. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, so Radharani is the bliss or the Radhini potency of Krishna's internal energy, right?
Yes.
Are they both the same still? It kind of seems like a part of Krishna.
What's your question? Is she a part of Krishna? Is that your question?
Is she fully Krishna or a part? I'm just not clear.
Okay, what's the first option? A part of? Is she a part of Krishna?
Same,
Or
same as Krishna.
she's the female portion of Krishna. So there's the totality is. You see, I'm not sure what you're asking, but it's just like the sun and the sunshine. There's not two entities, because you won't find shine without sun. You won't find sun without shine. They're inseparable, one entity. So Radha is inseparable with Krishna. She's not a separate entity, but she's an aspect of. Which aspect of? She's an aspect of his pleasure potency, the Swarup Shakti pleasure potency. The internal potency of Krishna has pleasure. He has knowledge, he has existence, and has pleasure. But she's the pleasure portion, or the pleasure potency. Now, does that address your question? Because you have to be more specific what your question is if I'm not hitting the target.
No, Maharaj.
You're okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. This question is from Anusha Puttarapu. Guru Maharaj, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we don't hear anything about Radharani, but with your classes we could hear about her. Why is it hidden in the great scripture? What are the ways to know and meditate on her?
Okay. You've been around, so you probably have heard anything I'm going to say. But we'll say it again anyways. It's nice to hear it again. In other Puranas, Radharani's name is mentioned specifically. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, her name is not mentioned. Why? And the reason, one explanation is, Shukadeva Goswami, if he said her name, he'd lose it. He'd go into a trance and be unable to continue narrating Srimad Bhagavatam. So he didn't say her name. He alluded to her, but didn't say her name. So we don't find her name, but we find her presence in a more general description, and our acharyas and the elevated Vaishnavas can understand who that particular gopi or female companion of Krishna is by the description. It's Radharani. So we can get some essence of who is Radharani by those who have close association with her, specifically the 6 Goswamis. And amongst the 6 Goswamis, particularly 3 times, particularly was Raghunath Das Goswami. He was totally dedicated to it. His prayers are dedicated to Radharani, Radharani, Radharani. He made his residence so your question was, from whom can we hear? From those associates, particularly our Goswamis. It's not that there are no other persons outside of our Sampradaya or outside of Vrindavan even that don't know anything about Krishna, that we don't know anything about Radha, and we can't hear from them. They also know, but most intimately, those 6 Goswamis knew. And one of the reasons why is they heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, particularly Rupa and Sanatan. They heard at length for months in detail from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna in the mood of Radha, and etc. And Raghunath Das Goswami, because he had the association, intimate association, for a number of years with Swarup Damodar, who was constantly by the side of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who is Lalita. And so he knew everything. And Raghunath Das learned from Swarup Damodar everything. So he knew, and he could write, and it's abundant in his writings. He didn't write like Rupa and Jiva and Sanatana Goswami. He didn't write volumes and volumes. He wrote, but one of his main topics is Radharani, Vilapa Kusumanjali. It's not a well-known book in the ISKCON circle, but it's steeped. We'll see some verses as we go along in future days. Some references are quoted from Raghunath Das Goswami in his glorification. Here's one. He prays to Radharani in Vilapa Kusumanjali, one of his verses. It is, please, I have no other desire. It's like Hanuman has the desire to be in service to Ram and nothing else. There's a verse, just read this afternoon. There's a verse by Hanuman where he says, here's the scene. The scene is Ramachandra has returned back to Ayodhya, and the ceremony of his being enthroned in the emperor's seat has just been established. And now he's looking around the room at all the persons who are assembled there, and he's feeling great gratitude for the devotees and their service that they have done. So he sees Sugriva, and he wants to give Sugriva some special gift. So he gives him a special garland, and he comes forward, and everyone's, ooh, Sugriva. And Angada, and others, and he gives gifts to all the persons who assisted him with great gratitude and a show of mercy. Then comes one who's standing off, kind of secluded. That's Hanuman. And he calls Hanuman, come forward. So obediently Hanuman scurries forward, and he looks to Sita and says, Sita gives some non-verbal acknowledgement. You have a very special necklace. Give him your very special necklace. So Ram removes this very special necklace and offers it to Hanuman, who declines the necklace. And he says, I don't want any gift from you like this. The one gift I ask is that as long as your name is recited, I want to remain in this world and serve you. Indicating that when a person departs from this world, if their name, it continues to be sung, they're present through their name being sung. Especially transcendentalist. It's not just the physical departure, it's so Ramchandra grants him that privilege. That's Dasya. It's a nice verse. So, Raghunath Das Goswami has Madhurya Bhav, and Madhurya Bhav as the follower of those who have Madhurya Bhav, or the Ragatmika devotees, the perfected devotees, like Radha. So he's fixed in nothing but. He writes in one of his prayers, I want to forever be in your association here in Vrindavan. And if I get a message that Krishna is in Dwarka and Krishna would like me to come to see him in Dwarka, I won't go. But if I hear that Radharani has gone to Dwarka, and Radharani would like you to come to Dwarka, immediately I'll leave. Because he's attached to Radharani. So that's how what you hear from a person like Raghunath Das Goswami, or our 6 Goswamis that had that intimate association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or their followers. And that's what this song at the very beginning, some of you came a little bit late, a nice song by Narottam Das Thakur, and it speaks specifically about this. Not specifically about finding out about Radharani, but finding about Krishna Bhakti. It's through the association of the Goswamis. And he wants, Narottam, wants their association, birth after birth. Let me eat the remnants of the food of those who are the servants of the Goswamis, because that will be my life and my means of sustenance. So hear from such persons. And that's how you can find. Although it's not, as your question reads, it's not found in Srimad Bhagavatam, so where can we find it? From the 6 Goswamis and their associates. And there are other personalities from other sampradayas that have a profound understanding of Krishna and Vrindavan. Yes.
By them, particularly to know more about Srimati Radharani?
There's many, but one very simple one is Bhakti Purushottam Swami, part 1 and part 2. These are mainly pastimes. We're going to be reciting some of the pastimes, but the tattva of Radha, that's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela chapter 4. The tattva of Radha. And then the pastimes of Radha, that's one very good source. But the writings of Raghunath Das Goswami. Now he is not speaking exactly about, he wrote some leelas following Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami writes a pastime, a tax pastime that takes place by the side of Govardhan Hill. So then he wrote another tax pastime, Leela. So through those are the titles of books. Mukta Charita, or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote a book. Chandrika, what's the second word? Chamatkar Chandrika. If you want a title of a book, it's 4 pastimes with Radharani. Chamatkar Chandrika. We're going to be narrating some of these. But you want to go there? That's where you can go. Chamatkar Chandrika. Mukta Charita. That's the Pearl pastime. We'll be narrating the Pearl pastime.
Thank you, Maharaj.
All the way in the back.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
So, in our temple, we have Krishna Balaram, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Is there any reason we don't have Radharani's deity, Maharaj?
I don't know. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. I don't know.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is, when Putana got killed, Krishna was few days old. And Putana already kidnapped Radharani. And then Putana was asked to kill all the babies who were born within the last 10 days by Kamsa. So I was trying to...
How is Radharani already taken birth if Krishna is only so young?
Few days old, and how many days Radharani was at that time?
Well, Prabhupada, there's different chronologies. Yes?
Variations.
Have you heard Prabhupada's lectures? He doesn't say 3 days, he says 3 months. Have you heard? I've heard. Consistently, 3 months old. 3 months. So different days of Brahma, different ages of when this event took place. That's how to reconcile that, Radharani is younger. Krishna is just a few days older, but he's older. So there's the answer. With Krishna being more than 3 days, for some number of days, like 3 months. And then Radharani is younger than him.
Thank you very much.
Your father.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Maharaj, out of the 5 possible narrations of the birth of Srimati Radharani that you mentioned, 3 of them are similar.
Very similar.
The finding Radharani in the lotus flower. So,
Yes.
so that's, we can understand probably as the most commonly told narration.
Well, the most commonly one is the one we hear when you go to Vrindavan, the place where Radharani appeared. You hear that narration because the flow of the river Jamuna, and on a lotus flower and the whole thing.
Okay. I think you mentioned either the 4th one or the 5th one is mentioned in Purana. I forget.
Matsya Purana.
Matsya Purana. 4th one, right? The plowing field. Okay. Yep. That's all I had. Thank you.
Matsya Purana. Okay? Does that address your question? Okay. Yes, your mother over here.
Just curious how Ramananda Rai is, attracted to Radharani. Is he also like a...
Why not? He's attached to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why not be attached to Radharani? It's
Okay, just through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Naturally. Naturally. Okay. Looks like we're questioned out. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.